All right, we're going to start in just a minute. Can you guys hear me? See my screen? Please shout in. Hopefully. Do not want to have to call Hiram again at 8 o'clock in the morning. Anyone? I know we got people on here. Come on. Awesome. Sweet. Back to the music then. I'm not sure, Darren. Darren asked if there's any way to enlarge his screen. I'm pretty rookie at using this webinar setup. Anybody know how you can enlarge your screen? He says his screen's a little small. Hopefully you get some feedback, Darren. Someone probably has used this quite a bit and been on the mastermind stuff and probably knows how to do that. So we are going to get started. It's 8 o'clock. It's a Saturday morning. I want to be on time and get this rocking and rolling and get through what I want to get through today and go out and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Cody comes back and says he can close the chat with the red box and it will expand the screen. Try that out, Darren. Thanks, Cody. All right, today, because of last week, we kind of had a little technical difficulty, so I'm going to get right in on how to set up this clean pressure. All it is pressure over the candlesticks, and I will kind of show you what I'm back testing with this. But there's so many different type of setups that you can use with it. I think one of the biggest issues we have as traders is trying to pick a way on how to trade. Also, I struggled with pressure when I first started. And until I was shown this, it really opened my eyes. I knew it, but I wish I could have had this right at the beginning. Because what it took me almost a year and a half, 2 years to really understand this pressure, this right here really explains it pretty quickly. So we'll get into setting this up really quick. I already have it set up, but let's say if you're in your chart right now and you just have a regular green chart set up. So I'm going to switch this back to just a clean chart. And so you have your clean chart in here. What you're going to do is right click on the chart and it's going to bring up this option, and we want to go into our studies. Once you're in your studies, you are going to proceed to hide, and some of them are already hidden, right? But you're going to hide everything except 16 and 17. So I'm going to do it really quick. I'm going to hide 1, hide 2, hide 3, hide 2 kind of sounds like you sneezed. Hide 5, hide 7, hide 8. If you can't make anybody else laugh, but you can make yourself laugh, it's a good day. Hide 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 18. So once we've hid all those, if you hit apply, you will soon see that everything's gone except the good old green and red line of the pressure. Now, to get these to move up over the candle, and if you watch this in your video, I recommend people going over those core indicator videos, go over all of them, but those core indicator videos, I believe there's 1 for TNTs, 3 for majors and minors, and then 1 for pressure, right? If you watch that pressure video, it actually shows this, and I'll show you how they get it up there. So go into settings, make sure you're in settings and input, chart region. If you switch that to number 1, you will see your green. Go up there to the candles. Hit OK. Go down to number 17. Also press 1 and apply. And there we have it. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to come into here and you're going to type in clean pressure. I already have it, all right? Clean pressure, so I'm not going to do this part. But type in clean pressure and then put save all. All right, Amber. Hopefully it's working now. How to reset my computer speaker. Go out, settings, update. Amber's here. Awesome. Once you hit save all, then it will come up. And I'm not going to do this right now. Cancel. And then you have it set up in your analysts. And so now you can go into any chart and bring up clean pressure as one of your chart setups. And I can switch back and forth to green chart and to clean pressure. So even if I brought up our good old trusty rusty mastermind here, and you were going to take a trade off one of the alerts, you could actually go into here, and before you took that trade, you could hit clean pressure and kind of see what the clean pressure looks like. And maybe that will help your decision on wanting to take the trade. Maybe it will help you decide where to put your protection. Maybe it will help you decide if you want to take more than just the 3 or 5 pips that come up with the 90 percenters. All right, so awesome. Did everybody get that? I know I went kind of a little bit quick, but if you didn't get it, hurry and chime in really quick, and I'll go over it one more time, and then we're going to get into what I have seen and what I started back testing and why I really, all right, Darren, one more time, but why I really enjoyed this. And we'll go back and a simple setup that I was doing and I'm back testing. We'll go over it. All right, so Darren, pick any one of your green charts, right, that has all 3 indicators on it. Right? It doesn't matter about the time or anything like that. If you right click, it brings up the box, the pointer, the line, chart values, chart settings, all this great stuff right here. We want to go into studies. These are all the studies. Hit everything, just need to move it. Awesome. Go down. These are all the studies that make up our indicators. So you want to be really careful when you're playing around in this box, right? So 16 and 17, Darren, if you go in here, and if you just move, make sure you're in settings and input. If you move the chart region to number 1 and hit apply, should bring your green up into region number 1, right? I'm going to do this. I don't have everything hit, but I just want to show Darren. Boom. Now we have pressure up here, right? And I can move it back. Apply. Now if we go down to 17, that's your red line, and you do the same thing. Go into settings. Make sure you're in the setting and input, right? Don't be in the subgraph. Be settings and input to 1. Apply. Red over. Okay? I'm going to put it back. Oh, didn't apply it. Then the last thing you need to do, so you can have this studies as one of your collections, and it will show up here in your analyst pull down. Come here, erase green chart 1, type in clean pressure, or whatever you want to type in. I don't care what you type in, and hit save all. Once that happens, if you go up here to analyst, you should have clean pressure or whatever you named it come up. Awesome. Cool, Darren. You should have it come up. Now, the last thing that I did, because one of my setups, and sometimes you'll see this, is I actually changed it on all because it's easier for me to see the indicators. If you go into chart settings and you go into graph draw type, usually your candlesticks are probably going to look like this, which is not bad. But if you see right here, it hides the pressure line because it is the same color. And so with what I set up when I was back testing this, I actually want to see what's on top, when it crossed, if it crossed. And so I just come into here to candlestick bar hollow and apply. And that's how you get your candlesticks looking very clear, or the see-through, right? Because right here, this is the reason why I did it. If you have that green, you cannot see what's on top or what's below. Go back here, apply. I don't know right there if that was on top. And when I started doing a really basic back test for this, that was one of my setups. So, okay. Awesome. So every Friday, I don't know if you guys know this, we have meetings. We have a COD meeting, we have kind of a whole company meeting, then we have a coaches meeting. Every Friday, hour and a half. It's awesome. I love it. It was a few weeks back, and this is we kind of forget some stuff as coaches, but every time I come up with something to test, I kind of have a theory. You know, if you start going to like the science or the math, right? And so when I started seeing this clean pressure, I said, wow, when pressure or when price, right, your candles, when price is broken below pressure, there's definitely some selling opportunity. When price breaks above it, there's definitely some buying opportunity, right? And so I started just kind of scrolling back and looking, right, and saying, wow, this happens quite a bit. And sometimes it initiates when red pops on top and it breaks through. There's something here, right? Green pops on top, it goes through. Red breaks down below, boom, it breaks through. And so just kind of seeing this, my mind started going, saying, hey, because I'm a big signal, you know, we'll go over a lot of different setups where I started. I love to have a signal to tell me which direction it's going to go. Just like Jason Hall with his thick orange, he loves when it maxes out, top or bottom, right? And then I want a trigger. And my trigger, I call that because when you click your buy or sell button, it sounds like a gunshot going off. And then I want confirmation, okay? And this is why I'm really excited about doing this group. And my students are kind of running wild with this, and a lot of them have different ideas. I've got a great signal. I got a great entry. Um, One thing just with trading with this is finding a confirmation. Now, I know I can go back to my majors and minors and get a confirmation pretty easily. And you'll start seeing that when you start playing around with this. But I've always looked, when I first started, I've always looked for two things: something very simple to be able to coach to individuals, and second, a 1-to-1 ratio, right? At least 70%. 1-to-1 at 70%, you're going to be really successful. I don't know if a lot of you on here, I love the indicators, the mastermind, the setups, and the reason why those are a 1-to-5 ratio is because that where it had to be 90%. Hiram, when he started out, really wanted his signals to be 90%, which is awesome. But I started out with that 1-to-5 ratio, and it was great. I loved it, right? Win, 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 win. Awesome. Things are going great. You're about ready to buy your dream house, right? Retire, quit jobs, walk away from everything. Win, win, win. I mean, I've had 23, 24, 30 streaks. I've had on some hot streaks, right? But on the other side, if you hit a loser, 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 like 3 in a row, it hurts. And if you haven't been on a hot streak, you just dug yourself into a hole, right? Now, I'm a very mathematical mind. I understand that the percentages are going to come around, and eventually you're going to be going up and to the right, as Iron always says, right? But for me as a trader, this really gets personal as a trader. I didn't like it, right? So very quickly I went to a 1-to-4. I had a coach, I can't remember who was talking to me about it, but he said, Troy, have you ever tested to see if your signal that you're using goes for more than 5 pips? Like a light bulb just went off, right? My mind was just blown. No, it seemed like I was in this mindset that you had to have a 1-to-5 ratio. And he said, why don't you back test that? He said, now your percentage might go down just a little bit, but go back and see if that same setup that you're doing produces more. Said, keep your stop loss at 25, but see if you can maybe get 7 pips, 8 pips, 10 pips. And so that kind of set me down this journey of where I really wanted to start finding a 1-to-1 ratio at about 70%. So I like my wins to be as great as my losses. Basketball, I don't like my wins to be worth 1/5 of every lose or every loss. And so that's what I've kind of been going to. I trade about a 1-to-2 ratio right now, around 80%, and it works. It's great. I love it. But I really want to start that 1-to-1 ratio. And when I started back testing this, I actually did a 1-to-2 ratio. And I'm also trying to bring this down so it's something that can get tested on the mastermind. Are we supposed to watch the video, or is this the webinar? I don't know what video you're talking about, but this is the webinar that you're on. Amber says, I've not been on a hot streak. Trying a 1-to-2 is so very interesting in this. Trying for better analysts. Awesome. Yeah. And trust me, guys, you can be very successful for a 1-to-5. I'm not going to say my way's a better way to trade. It's just a different way to trade, right? And I have students that have been going on this and have added their own little twist to it, and they're being very successful. So we'll kind of get into the back testing part, kind of how I set up my back testing. I first want to get 100 sample sizes, right? And I'm going to tell you what, I really push my back testing to the limit, because back testing this for 3 years is a lot of work. And so I really push it to the max to see if maybe it's not going to hold up. But I did. I'm actually doing the 240. It held up pretty nicely, so I'm pretty excited. But just my simple, and this is kind of some to get your mind started thinking about how you can maybe better your system that you're using right now, or just kind of get your mind wrapped around it. All right, Jill. We'll just start out as a light. This might be a little bit above, but we are going to keep stuff really simple, so hopefully you'll get it. But back testing is definitely one of the things that I owe my success to. Hiram owes his success to. So I think this is our learning, right? I tell my students all the time that this is a profession, and you can make 6 figures a year very comfortably, living out of your home, working out of your home for a few hours a day. Right now, after you understand these indicators, trading becomes pretty monotonous, pretty mundane, punching the clock. I look on, I do my analysis. Okay, I'm going to put my protection here, my take profit here, and I walk away. So the fun that I get is actually finding new ideas to test and seeing student success. I tell my students all the time, I like to trade. I love coaching, and so I love the success of others. So, but with back testing, this is our work. I always say, whatever got you into this, whether you saw it in the light program or you watched the videos, whatever got you in, something sparked your interest, right? And I say it would be like watching Law and Order, okay, going to the DI or some thrift shop, buying a suit, walking into a courthouse, and trying to spit out laws that or regulations you just heard on Law and Order the night before without doing any of your homework, right? It doesn't work. You're not going to be able to just walk in that courthouse and start making the money lawyers do, right? Lawyers have to study. They have to go through the exam. They have to do, there's a process. Well, our process here to become a professional day trader is back testing and paper testing, forward testing, right? That's our work. That's what we got to do to be successful. And once you hit this point, and I'm pretty sure with lawyers and doctors, you hit that point where it just becomes second nature. It's like breathing, right? And so how do we get to this? Is we back test, right? And I'm going to tell you how Hiram became so successful so quickly is because he back tested all the time, right? He was spending about 14 hours a day, 6-7 days a week, back testing and forward testing. And that's how his growth became so exponential, right? Now, most of us can't do that. We understand that. But if you can do a couple of hours a weekend, right now, just wake up a couple hours, when the market's not open, so you're not distracted by how the candles are moving, right? Just a couple of hours. Or when you put in a trade, instead of sitting there watching it and shaking, right? Oh, it's going up, it's going down. Should I close it out, right? Back test. Build confidence in what you just did by going back through and seeing and building that confidence. Yep, I know it's going to work because I've back tested it. So I'd place a trade and I'd start back testing. So I wasn't watching the market. I'd back test on the weekends when the market was closed. And then forward testing is just as important because paper testing lets you go through that emotion. The one thing with back testing, it's instant gratification. And so this is a 120 chart. And for that to break through, if that was my signal, for me to take profit would have been about 2 hours. That's quite a bit of time to let a trade go, especially if you're new, right? You have those emotions. So that's the one kind of hiccup on back testing is it's not good or bad. I don't believe in good or bad, but that's just the other side of it. It's instant gratification, and we don't get the emotion of this candle by just rolling the mouse forward or backwards, right? I found back testing to be invaluable. Well, hopefully, I found it to be invaluable, right? Hopefully, we can get it to be valuable, Amber. And that's kind of what this is going to be for you. Invaluable. Does invaluable mean great? Invaluable? Yeah. I'm not an English professor. I hate English, so hopefully you're not saying that back testing was horrible for you. Invaluable? I mean not valuable, right? Well, hopefully we can change your mind if that's what you're meaning. I hope you can see it's very valuable, right? So that's the one thing that it kind of gets away from. Means, see, people are so much. I tell my students, you're probably a lot smarter than me. Means it's the best. Awesome. I love it. See, Darren, thank you. Appreciate that. I always tell my students, you're probably much smarter than I am. Hiram will admit it too. We're not the smartest tools in the shed, sharpest tools in the shed. But we do have that pit bull determination that when we saw this, we wanted to be very successful at it. And so work can make up for a lot of not being very smart. So enough said. Let's get back into this, and I'm going to run through some back testing because I think some people hear back testing and might not understand how to do it. So a lot of people, especially being in a light program, awesome. See, Amber, much smarter than me. I'm giving you hope that you can be very successful at this because I ain't the smartest person, right? So awesome. It means invaluable, means to the extreme. I love it. I'm an ultimate student first. I try and learn something every day, teach something every day, and do something every day. Those are my 3 values of life. Awesome. So the basic thing that I started out, I kind of just throw out this theory, all right? And it was really cool. Signal, right? My signal was when red crossed over on top, I was going to start looking for a sell. That does not mean I'm going to get into a sell. Because one of the things is when red pops on top, at a high percentage, usually you'll have a red candle either within that candle or within the next couple of candles. But there's a couple of times when that happens when it doesn't, right? So I wanted that to be my signal, right? And you can start adding stuff to this. I just did really simple at first to test this theory out. If it starts to diverge, we understand with pressure, hopefully, that when it starts to diverge, that means that this uptrend right here could be slowing, could be discontinuing, divergence, discontinue. It might be stopping. And so that was the signal for me to start looking for a sell. Now, the next thing I was going to look for, and this is why I brought this up, is because I could just start seeing that when it happened, at a lot of times, there could be buying opportunity, or there could be an opportunity to go in that direction, selling opportunity. Buying opportunity there, selling opportunity there. So I wanted the candle to break through the pressure lines, right? Break through. Almost like a support, and resistance line. One thing when I've been back testing this is that it acts like a living, breathing support and resistance line. Right here, it broke through the trend or the pressure, and then it came back up, tested it, and then broke back through. Right, went through and broke through it, had that push up. So that's another thing that I tell my students. Trend line, and a trend line support and resistance is pretty cool. So I believe that there's 3 successful things for a trade, 3 keys to a successful trade, right? And one is not winning. The 3 keys to a trade is entry, exit, and protection, right? And a lot of people are really good with entry, really good with exit, right? If it goes in their favor. But what usually fails people is protection, right? As a new trader, you need to protect every single trade. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. You need to protect it, right? And I usually start my students out with a stop loss, right? That's one form of protection. Also, hedges are a form of protection. I'm not going to knock a hedge, but a hedge is another skill that you have to learn, right? And so when we're first starting out, I want to start my students out with the basics. Now, I teach the principles of hedging, right? And I hedge, but I didn't really become successful at hedging until my plan really started becoming profitable. And then hedging is just a second nature, right? So the first thing I start my students out is with a hard stop. All right, we'll go over that, right? Someone's confused about a stop loss. Yes, that seems to be the hard confusion. Now you could just take a very cookie cutter approach and say 25, 30. I think when a lot of people get into the lights, that's kind of like the default, 5 pips, 25 stop loss, or 50 points. A lot of people say we'll move the red line down to 50 and the other red line up to 250. Those are micro pips or points, which means 25 or 5. And so that's usually the generic one. I like to use support and resistance. All right. Now this is probably going to go a little bit above a basic, right? But I'm pretty basic on my technical. I think as far as coaching realms, I'm probably to the one extreme side of pretty not. I know how to be very technical, but I don't do it because of back testing. I never really draw support and resistance, and it still works. I put 99% of my faith in these indicators, and the other ones are the other stuff, right? And so, not saying it's good or bad, right? Because we have coaches that are very technical and are very successful. So I always tell my students, if you think technicals are going to be what makes you successful or not, I'll spend the whole session doing it. I'll go over multiple classes with you. But for me, where I put my protection, thank you. I love the feedback. Awesome. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of stuff to do. And like I said, this might be a little bit more advanced, Michelle, but great respawn, right? I love it. Oh, awesome. Hi, Jared. That's hilarious. That made me laugh. I know. I'm in here as Hiram, so if I type Hiram's not, I'm in here as Hiram. Monday, that's awesome. Looks like you better update. Great. Yes, when you first start out, awesome. Do that with a very set one. I use support and resistance, and a lot of my trade plans actually kind of build a natural support and resistance line. This one does, like it comes down and it starts going up. It does this little bounce right here. Support and resistance, I think we get kind of a little bit advanced with it. All support and resistance is the market went down and a line or a price here bounced, right? Yep. This is where support and resistance gets confusing, right? You were correct, Darren. Yes, you can use the wicks and the shadows. Most people, I was taught that support and resistance is more of a zone, right? It's not just this little infinite line, right? It's not this one price. It's actually more of a zone, okay? And so when I went through coaching, my coach said, think of support and resistance more as a zone. And so that will kind of add the candles and the wicks and the bodies. But to each his own on this, right? This is kind of where the technicals get a little fuzzy. So my biggest thing is I was really comfortable about taking a 25 pip, um, 30 pip stop at first. So this is a 120 chart, right? If we brought this down to a 60 chart here, this would kind of bring this a little bit more into grasp for new traders. The one thing that why I'm not really showing a 240 chart is a 240 chart or a daily chart will put this support and resistance line way up, and I don't want students starting out to be taking 50 pip stop losses, right? So one thing I have been doing with my students, if I just said that we can use this trend or this, support, pressure as a trend line, right? Or as a resistance line. Magnet is great until it's not. Maybe we can start, this is what I've been testing on the 120 with my students. Maybe we could put our stop just right above this. Because when I started, I'd love to have my protection above two support / resistance lines. They'd actually be resistance. I always say the words together because your support line could become a resistance line. Your resistance line could become a support line. All right. And so I always say support and resistance. Now, when it's above price, it's a resistance. It's like a ceiling. It's kind of holding you in the room, right? When it's below you, it's a support. But just for free, I always say support and resistance because they can be either or depending on where the price is at, right? So maybe from the body to top of the wick would work well. Yes, Darren, that's kind of what I started doing a lot. Awesome. But what I've been testing with my students on this 120 is maybe starting to use the pressure and kind of putting our protection up above here. So I always look for my protection first. And then depending on what my protection is, I start testing this as a 1 to 2. If I'm going to risk 30 to 35 pips, I want to take 15 pips of profit to get to that 1 to 2 ratio, right? And we've already seen this, that this one works out very well, okay? The thing I really love about this trade setup, so we had our protection right there, and I'm going to turn that into a red line, is that a lot of times this will produce these runs. Thank you, Jaron. Love the feedback. Love Jaron. Very skilled. You know, I have Hiram Jaron, right? I'm going for bigger pips on a bigger time chart, right? But that doesn't, like I'm saying, my way is not the right way. It's just another way, right? I have some students sometimes, they're like, why does everybody just tell me to get 5 pips or go for 3 to 5 pips? Well, because I can give you a couple of examples of some very successful people, Hiram and Jaron, that have built great accounts with going to 3 to 5 pips. So there's something very powerful for taking 3 to 5 pips, right? 3 to 5 pips is beautiful. I love it. As I started evolving as a trader, and when I started out, that's what I did. I did 3 to 5 pips, right? But as I started out and I started coaching more, and I started spending a lot more time on the coaching aspect of this, I moved up my time frames and started going for maybe a little bit more and maybe not happening as much. So this can work on a 60-minute chart, right? It can work on a 15-minute chart, especially when the market is moving. You can use it as scalping. This is just kind of what I'm testing, right? The signals. I try and tell my students, I could sit here and hide. Yep, it does. Awesome. I can sit here and hide this, right? This time frame. I could put a little screen up here, hide it, and I could put different time charts and periods up here and hide the price and the candles, and the signals are going to look the same, or keep the candles here. And until you start measuring the movement of the candles, you probably wouldn't know if you're on a 5 minute, a 15, a 30. So the signals will come up the same, right? On a shorter time period, it's going to happen a lot more. On a bigger time period, it's going to happen less. You'll probably be able to get more pips out of the bigger charts and less pips out of there. So a lot of people, when we start out, it's very great to use a 3 to 5 system on smaller time periods, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to sit in front of the screen all day long, right? And so when we can kind of figure out what time frame works for them, most people want to see their trades go in and out. And so they only have a couple hours to look at the computer screen. Then using a 60, 30, 15, 5, our setups are going to happen a lot more in that time frame for them and have better opportunities for it to take out. So, but as we can see here, and this is kind of where I'm going for, cut your losers short, let your winners win, and let your winners run. We can start seeing that a lot of times when this happens, we do have some great push down. So one thing that I'm kind of pushing around when I'm back testing this is maybe when green pops on top, that would be my signal, right? Or multiple red candles. There's a million different ways we can trade this. That when green pops on top, maybe that's a sign for me really to start moving this line down. My stop loss, not to put a take profit in, would start moving that down and trying to max out my potential. But that's a little bit going extreme. I mean, we'll get into that stuff, but right now, just kind of want to go through how I started back testing this. So if I risk 30, or we can even just do a hard 30. We'll just do a hard 30 right now. So 30 and 15 is what I'm going for, right? So there was 30 pips up here. It only went against us. Draw down, you'll hear draw down or going against us. It went against us 15 points or 15 micro pips. That's 1.5 pips, right? And max potential on this was 70, right? And so we would have gotten out of our 15 pip take profit trade I just barely. So I've been looking at this clean pressure for about 3 months, right? I'm just barely starting to get into back test the 240 because the 240 really works for me great. So none of this has been verified, right? This is something that I wanted to do. This is some of my key successes when I first started. Is Mastermind started out, and I was a part of that group, and we went back and back tested these signals. So what kind of would you take the trade sell on? I would take this trade sell on when it broke through it, right? And we're going to go through some of these. I know I've been jabbering a lot, but we're going to start going through these this last 10, 15 minutes here, and we'll whip through a lot of these back tests, so hopefully you can start seeing it, right? But the mastermind and then back to the basics, right? And what we did in those two groups is we started putting these indicators to a test, right? And so that's what I really believe, and that's why I want to start giving back to new traders, is because that's what I really lock into my key to success. So we can see here that within 2 hours, we would have been out. So we had a 30 pip stop loss and a 15 pip take profit, right? So this is a new one that I'm trying out, okay? Also, when I back test, I'm going to tell you, I bring up my indicators, and I use 3 charts, power 3. Even when I did my majors and minors, I loved when I first started, it was a 60, 30, 15, 120, 60, 30, just half charts, 240, 120, 60, and so on and so on. And so I bring these up just so I can start seeing maybe some patterns that happen. Like when this crosses over, maybe I can get some confirmation. I started adding a point system to it, right? And so we'll go over that a little bit at maybe next week. We'll go over the point system that I started putting to this to see, or maybe get us out of trades. Now, we always love, right? Trend is our friend. Can everybody see here that this was a good down? This is a 120. That's 200 and something pips, I believe, is what it went, or 100 and something. I mean, it's a good movement for the Euro US. So after this, 70, still a good movement. After this, right, this has been putting into a down trend, right? And so maybe if you always want to trade with the trend, this might not be a trade that you want to get into. But I want to put this to the test, maximum. I push it. I push the limits to see if it's worth my time to take the trades or not. So to answer your question, Darren, when green pops on top, that is my signal. When green's on top, we are looking for a buy now, right? My trigger to get in for the trade would be when the price, the candle, posts above the green line. It should break through both, right? We'll just say green to keep it simple. Now if I'm going to go for a 30 pip stop loss, ooh, I like that because it's down below my closest support / resistance line. But we'll just kind of do that cookie cutter approach here where I'm going to go for 30 and I'm going to take a 15 pip trade. Awesome. 2 for 2. I write this stuff down, guys. I have notebooks and notebooks. I love writing it down. I believe for me, when I write it down, it really starts putting it in my head. Okay? So I write stuff down. I have other students that use spreadsheets. Either way is fine, but I'd have my notebook right here and say 2 for 2, right? I write out my little basic plan. When red pops on top, that's my signal to sell. When the price breaks below both of them, that's my trigger. I'm going to use a 30 and a 15 take profit, and I just go to town. I'm looking for 100 of these, right? And so there's 2 for 2. So we start going forward again. Ooh, this one's tricky, right? You might want to put a little asterisk, right? Because we've seen in these last two where pressure has done this nice smooth rollover and it broke through, right? This is how pressure is supposed to work, right? When we start getting this nice smooth curve and then all of a sudden, right, snaps it. This might have been an announcement or something emotional. That snap breakthrough, or it could have broke through a lot of support resistance, or people could add stops or whatever. There's many reasons to get that right there, but that is a unnatural occurrence for support and resistance. Or trend. Oh, geez. Good thing it's Saturday and the weekend's coming. Anybody want to tell me what these two lines are? Pressure, right? Pressure. That is unnatural, right? When Hiram starts talking about his majors and when we have this hiccup, that this is an unnatural form right here for this. Same thing with our pressure. Pressure is supposed to be this nice, smooth line, right? For the most part. So this might be a little asterisk for you. Wow, it broke through at the same time when we had a kink. But when I'm back testing, like I said, I want to put this thing through the ringer, right? I really am trying to disprove it because back testing 3 years is a lot of work. And I've done it 1,000 times. So especially now, 2 years into this, I was hoping it didn't work out, but it seemed to work out pretty well. Oh, so that would have been a loser, right? Right? So we say now we are 2 for 3, okay? And I'm going to make a mental note here, right? And I can tell you, we went back and looked at this, definitely something happened in the market. Just understanding pressure, right? Because we had this and then we had this big press. This could have been an announcement. And so even this could be a winner, like if we really wanted to get technical, because I teach my students 30 minutes prior to an announcement, we probably want to get out, right? News, yep. News. All right? So that one kind of blew up. And then when we get here, it's green above, green below. After this big candle right here, I might pull out a different tool out of my tool bag, right? And so I have had some students that are testing this and they say, Troy, it doesn't matter to me if it's above or below, but I haven't tested it, right? That's something for you. But if it just breaks through right there, a lot of my students are taking the trade. And if we did a 30 here, I would not count this in my notebook, but we did a 30 here and went forward. that one would have worked out. But that's not in my trade plan, right? Because my trade plan is I wanted it to break through. So I'd keep this one out. All right, let's go forward again. All right, red's on top. Here could be a trigger, or here's my signal, and it breaks through. Right, awesome. So we go 30 pips here and go down 15. Come on, baby. There we go. So now we're 3 to 4, right? And guys, understand with a 1 to 2, do we have to be 90% accurate? Hopefully you guys understand that we don't, right? You're in the 75 plus with a 1 to 2, you're going to be very happy that you joined us, right? You're very, very happy with your trade plan. All right, so there's 3 for 4. Yep. So I will tell you some of the pitfalls that I've seen with this, right? Okay, and a lot of times you can use just the basics of the pressure, right? And the basics of the pressure is it's converging, right? So when we got into this trade right here, right, they were both pointed down. Both of the lines were pointed down. This trade right here, one was pointed down, one was pointed up. They were not in agreement to go down, right? So maybe that's a way, and start looking at these things to stay out of, right? So maybe that was a way to stay out. When we were successful here, they were kind of both pointing up. Successful here, they were both pointing down. So there's a little bit of side notes so you can start picking up on this, right? Once again, one's down, one's up. Some of my students have started seeing a pattern with this. Hopefully you guys can test this week, and I'd love to hear feedback. You know, I'm not going to be when we did the back to the basics, one of my buddies was kind of took over it and in charge, and man, he would be like, you have to do all this homework, and if you're not going to do all these back testing and all this stuff and that. I understood why he was doing it, but you know, we still all had full-time jobs at the time, so it was hard to sit down and try and get all the homework done. So I'm not going to sit here and give you guys homework, but if you want to get the max success out of this, you know, when we kind of get out plans, and I mean, I'm going over clean pressure today, but I want this to be such a group involvement where people say, hey, this is what I kind of found when I back tested the clean pressure for next week, right? So I'd love the feedback, guys. This is one thing that I'm trying to do, and it's kind of hard with big groups and technology. I love you guys are chatting in. That's awesome. Keep doing that. But I also want to hear you guys' plans, right? I'd love to go through back testing with your plans. I'd love for you guys to share your plans if you're having success, so we can start helping more students and traders be successful. So here we go. Even though that one might have been a little asterisk because they weren't going through, like I said, I put this thing to the ringer at first to see if it's worth my time. So again, we've only lost one so far. And once again, this might be another loser. We'll see. I kind of like the majors over there on the 120, so we'll see. 30 up here. Oh, snap. 29.9. Wow. Mama, may I have another one, right? Whew. Good thing we put it 30. Wow. Oh, it hurt me anyways. So there was another loser. I'm going to use this in back testing. Awesome. So there was another loser. And this right here, usually when I started doing my testing, I kind of have a ranging one, but I want to kind of put a cookie cutter into it. Like Jaron was saying, it's much easier to start out for students just having that instead of trying to do what I would do and pick my support and resistance. So really trying to put this 30 to 15 here to the test, right? Oh, kill me. Another loser, right? And a lot of people say, Troy, why do you use a 240? Because the bigger time frame this went up, the less fake outs happened, right? So, ooh. Let's go 30 again. You can kind of start seeing this little pattern, right? it seems like when we get this long spread divergence, then we start getting this rollover, seems to be really accurate. A lot of times when we get these little kinks, right? Awesome. Awesome, Jill. That's kind of one thing that I'm doing this. Great that you're starting to see it. And probably you're going to go away from this and you're going to start doing it, and it's probably going to confuse you again. But we're going to keep going over this every week. But you can already start seeing these things come up, right? That kink went against us, right? But a lot of times when you see this successful is when it starts separating, market kind of starts slowing down, meaning that a lot of this up momentum is probably starting to fade away. And then when it breaks through, a lot of times we're going to have a great success of it, right? Here again, if you believe in just trading with the trend, you might not want to get into that trade. You might have waited for this setup, right? Because we had this great push up, and if we know the market, right, it has to go up, and if it wants to continue going up, it has to give back before it can go up again, right? And so maybe now this one you were a little nervous for, right? Maybe this one now you're not too nervous for, right? Because now if we believe in just the definition of trend, right, it needs to make a higher high and a lower, your lower high, right? This, we have to zoom out here, right? So on a 120, if you believe that that was your high and it broke through and it made this new high, and this was your low, and now it established a new low, this might be when you want to trade this, right? For many opportunities to do this. Right now, like I said, I just want to kind of see if it's going to be a continuation of my time to keep doing this. So we'll go 30. Oh, get out, run away. See that? Going over the back test. Apparently they think they want to go in a different direction. So this would have been a loser right here. If you would have scalped it, you'd have been really happy. And there's other things too. Like I said, I'm 1 to 2. You might find out that getting 5 pips when this breaks through is probably the easiest thing you've ever done, and can lead to some great success, right? So that, oh, red's not even on top, right? But here's one of the theories I'm going through, and this is getting a little more advanced, is if we believe that this is a support resistance breathing trend line, right, then now the new trend is going down, and we've tested this, and it came up and it tested that, and then look at my majors and minors over here. Woo, doggy, right? Little old school right here. This is what made me a lot of money, these 3 charts here. Signal, entry, confirmation. I would have got into this trade down here, and we'll kind of go over that a little bit. But if this is testing this now, I might just be waiting, maybe stay out of this, right? But waiting for that. I love that, right? Money. We'll go over my majors and minors. We'll see how much people have questions about this next week, the pressure. But majors and minors is what I trade still to this day. I mean, I use pressure and stuff like that, but until I go through 3 years, I don't put this in my live account. Killing it right now with demo trading, but that right there is my money signal. Oh, I love that. So awesome here. One last time. That should be up to 30 and go on. What was that? Dang, that sell look is my number one go-to. See the bobby pin in the pressure in the 60-minute. Yeah, awesome, right? I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yep. Back it up 2 clicks. Right here, Jaron? Right there. Right there. Awesome. And what I always look about for confirmation, we'll just kind of leave on this note with my majors and minors, right? This would actually be my, right here, this kind of went through, but this double right here really makes me, I love it, like that pressure going through there. But this would actually be a 120 entry for me, and my 60-minute would be my confirmation. But all I do with confirmation is that I believe in a couple of candles, 2 to 3 candles, that my pressure or my green, my major line is going to be matching this next chart right here, right? That's what I mean about confirmation. I'm looking at my smaller charts right here to see if I can kind of predict the future, right? And I haven't got a confirmation on this. I know I'm going to probably have to bring in my majors and minors or my TNTs. Point system right here, even though red is on or green is on top, I'm jumping all over this trade, right? And if I counted my points, and I just use points as when I'm going to go for a sell, I just want to confirm that. So I'd have a point going down on my pressure here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have 2 possible points here. You have 4 possible points here. Gray, black, green, and red are all pointing down. That'd be 4, 4, 4. So there's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Remember, blue up means down. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So out of 30 points for my point system, 27 of them saying down, right? Might want to take a sell trade, right? Don't cut your nose off to spite your face because you said, well, Troy, you told me that red had to be on top for me to take this sell, right? That's just my base theory of this plan, right? If you see this where it breaks through and you see something like this, might want to try and make some money, okay? All right. And then we'll just roll forward and see if my confirmation happened. It only took 1 candle for this major here to look like this major the next candle. Bam. And if you would have got into there, you would have been very happy, right? Now 24.8 is the max, and that's impossible to get because we don't know where it's going. Darren, I'm trying to figure that out. Hopefully we can come up with that, right? There's some different options. Darren asked, what's the minimum of your point system you trade? Are you going back with the trend? Or are you going against the trend? And so some of that happens, and I do not actually have this. Like I said, this is brand new. I've been doing this for 3 months with the pressure, right? So this is still in beta testing. You guys are on the ground floor of this clean pressure. And so I'm so happy with this is because I can't wait for you guys to help, to bring it to life. That's what I'm wanting to do with this website, is getting the feedback, because many eyes looking at this will make a great success, right? And I had one student once say, well, how can I make because I just give my basic trade plans. I never give my full trade plan because it's not fair for my students, because I've been looking at these for 2 years. So there's things that a lot of times I don't tell why I would take it or not take it, is because it's just a natural reaction. But I give all these basic ones and want them to kind of grow on it. One of my students said, well, how can I make your plan better? And I said, well, and we'll leave on this note right here. I said, look, if you're in an English class and a teacher gives you a book report, the whole class a book report on Moby Dick. Now, unless 2 students are cheating off of them, none of them are going to be verbatim exactly the same, right? You might have your bases be the same, but everybody's going to have a different point of view. And so that's what we found out with the mastermind. That's what we found out with getting back to the basics, is that when a lot of people are looking at the signals, you can make it a really great trade plan. So that is there, and that is it. I'm up on my time. I like to start early, or start on time and get done on time. A lot of times, we'll probably close it out a little bit. But guys, start looking at this. If you have a trade plan and you're trading something, maybe just put this to the side and see if something starts coming up. So do a little bit of back testing today on this clean pressure. Maybe back test it with your plan and see if it can help you out, right? That's the key, trying to get better. So with that, thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. I love the feedback. Awesome. That's where I kind of want to go with this. For next week, if you guys have some trade plans that are working out well, let's bring them on, baby. Let's back test it. Let's see if we can make it better. Or maybe you have something that you might just be missing that one little point. Well, if we have 80 to 90 people looking at it, we could probably figure that point out much better as a group than as an individual. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your weekend. Do a little bit of back testing, and we will talk to you guys on next Saturday. Thanks. Bye.